I said I wouldn't talk about brands, but this Gallagher geared reel is the best reel. It is. It's expensive. This, tied by someone, not myself, is, okay, but here's, now you maybe all know a reel. It's got a little widget here that helps keep the reel from just unreeling itself. And here's the handle. And here's a little widget that you tie your twine to. Now look, I told you never tie a knot in twine. Because why? Because now I'm going to spend about 10 minutes with 20 people looking at me trying to untie a knot. What you all, now see, it comes loose like that. And but if you click that clicker down, it doesn't unreel. And you really want that. What you want is to have the reel help you when you're reeling and unreeling twine. Okay, so here it comes off. Here's a granny knot. That's okay, it's not very pretty, but it works good. Everybody knows a granny knot. Granny knot's what I use for 100 million years, because until I told myself a little way to make square knots, I could never make them. Now I have a little chant. I chant to myself. I'm going to chant it to you, and you can make a square knot too. Okay, a granny knot, if you've ever sewed anything, is you got the two ends, you just twist them together, and you make a knot. Now the good thing about the granny knot is that you cannot untie a granny knot. That's a bad thing about it too. All right, so back to the never tie a knot in electric fence except when you connect fence together. What you always want to use when you hook the fence to anything else is a half hitch. The half hitch is you twist the little twist in the wire, you come under and poke it through and pull it tight. Now if you've got a horse, you already know what, I don't know, maybe it's not even a half hitch, I don't know, but that's what it is. And why do you use that? Just like you do for your horse, so you can get it undone in a hurry. Okay? So half hitch and a square knot, or a half hitch and a granny knot if you can't get the square knot thing to work for you. Geared reel, the best reel. Okay, and they're closer together than the spacing on your post. You'll always have trouble. So do not have knots closer together than about 30 feet. You're just wasting of your time. Okay, now look at this great twine. Doesn't it look lovely? Really great, big fat twine. Well, if you look at it closely, here. If you look at it closely, this is horrible twine. Because why? What do you think makes this bad twine? The reason this is bad twine is because it doesn't have very many metal strands in it. The other thing is that you can't see by looking at it, it's not UV stabilized. And after it's been out in the field for a while, just hold on to a little piece of twine for a minute. Because I'm going to probably embarrass myself horribly in front of people I don't even know. I showed you how to do a granny knot so you can tie your granny knot, but now I'm going to show you how I learned to do a square knot right all the time. And if you have a little piece of twine, I'll just hand out more twine and practice, because you can kind of look at rabbit ears. 2 rabbit ears. Over the ear and under the ear. And then bunny ears, because they're shorter. Over the ear and under the ear, same way. Rabbit eye, it's got to look like a rabbit eye. Pull it tight. Square knot. Rabbit ears, bunny ears, rabbit eye. Let's do it again. because then I'll show you the next step. What's good about a square knot? You can untie them. Okay. Rabbit ears. They look like big long rabbit ears. Over one ear, right over left and under is what I say. Bunny ears, right over left and under. Look at it. It's got to look like a rabbit eye. If it looks like a rabbit eye, it's a square knot. Pull it tight. Rabbit ears, bunny ears, rabbit eye. Now, you've just put the one and only knot you're going to put in your electric fence. Look how ugly it is. Look how it catches on stuff. So you twist the twine in the direction that the twine wants to go. You can feel it. And then you have a nice knot that is somewhat likely to go through your insulator. But look at this crappy twine. It doesn't even tie, it doesn't twist on itself good. So that's another reason this monster twine is bad twine. Take the time to twist your twine. Okay, twist it on there, and that you'll have less trouble with it. Okay, rabbit ears, bunny ears, rabbit eye. Right over left and under, right over left and under. Check the eye, and that's a square knot. Sorry, I bet you all know how to tie a square knot, but I tied a damn granny knot for 30 years until I thought of the rabbit ear, bunny ear thing. Okay, now back to the half hitch. You can sneak around and try the half hitch all you want while nobody's looking at you, but here's the thing. And this half hitch, it works for, sometimes mysteriously it won't work. But you put the little, here's your twine, you put the little twist in it, so you have the little twist, you push the back end through and under and pull it tight. And it's not a very good way to make tight twine because it always has a little loose spot, but doggone it, when it's time to get that untied, you're not sitting there fiddling with it, swearing at the person that tied it on. And that's a very, as I said, remember one of our words? Efficiency. You've got to be efficient. And if you're out there day after doggone day putting this stupid stuff up, you want it to be efficient and you want to do it the same way every time. Okay, so take a look at that Gallagher reel. There you can hang it. If sometimes you won't want to use, if your fence isn't going to be up for long, you're not going to want to use a handle. You're just going to want to leave the reel on, which is okay because it's hot. It's not grounded to anything as long as you're not accidentally touching anything metal. Okay, now look at this. Oh, this must be really good twine. Look how fat it is. Okay, it is. This twine will carry 17 kilovolts. It'll zap the hell out of your dog who will never come back to your yard again as long as it lives. But it's not really necessary. It really isn't. It's expensive. It's not stretchy. It's pretty and it's hot. This is a really crappy reel. I'll give you this reel. It's a bad reel because why? Because it doesn't have a guide. It also has this little flopper thing here that will get hung up and just cause you to be extremely irritated. So you want to save money? Don't buy this. You want to save money? Don't buy that. You want to keep your blood pressure down? Don't buy that. All right. Now here's a beautiful reel. Somebody forgot to tie the twine on, so what happens is the twine all comes undone and then you get angry because you're not the kind of person that hangs all your shirts up the same direction and you have to untangle all that twine. This is an okay twine. This is not a Gallagher twine, but this is a UV stabilized twine with lots of metal in it. So it's an okay twine and it's cheaper than Gallagher, so you can use that. But can we see something that I brought this to show you this and I wasn't sure I'm going to be able to show you. In the inside of a reel is a place to hook your twine. All right guys, don't tie the twine on. You know why? Because when you're driving along holding this twine and it's reeling and you get to the end of the reel and it's tied onto the reel, you're going to wrench your shoulder or the twine reel's going to fly out. You want that twine to come off. So just kind of slip it in there, just enough to get the reel started reeling. Do not tie anything to anything ever. I guess you can tell I'm pretty emphatic about that. All right, here's another the bad evil reel. Now, there's a good twine, maybe. You look at it, it's easy to see, it's kind of pretty. It's got lots of metal in it, but look how light it is. Ooh, that's great because you can carry a lot of it, but you know what? When something hits that twine, it'll break. So it's not my favorite. The other bad thing that some bad person did, probably me because I was in a hurry, I tied this kind of twine to that kind of twine. Well, does the electricity care about that? No, because the electricity is so little and the twine looks like a gigantic superhighway to it. So it doesn't care that the twine's different. But you'll care because the one kind breaks and the other kind doesn't, or because it's got less metal in it, or because it's just not very satisfactory to tie different twines together. But when we do tie them together, what do we use? Grown men, rabbit ear, bunny ear, rabbit eye, square knot. Okay, you can untie a square knot. Then, now here's a good thing. I don't like to waste time, but if you've tied your square knot and one tail's really short and the other one's really long, untie it and do it again. Because why? Because you might get so much tension on that that it'll slip. And if it's longer, if your rabbit ears and your bunny ears, rabbit ear, bunny ear, rabbit eye, has a pretty long tail, and they're about even, and then you take the time to twist the twine. And this actually is pretty good twine, except it's too fiefy and it breaks when something hits it. Or you tied your twine onto your reel and then you reel it out and then you break the twine because you forgot that you're not supposed to tie it onto your reel. But you twist that and it stays twisted. Better twines stay twisted like that. And then it's a nice thing and it's got a pretty good chance it'll go through the insulator actually, like that. So, and it's pretty too, all right? Take the time to twist the twine. Now look at this sorry looking twine. Crummy old looking stuff. This twine is older than at least half the people in this room. This is really good twine. They don't even make this twine anymore. But if you look at it, it's got lots of wire, lots of metal in with the twine. It's really twisted good, and it's UV stabilized. And I've been using this twine we bought it when we bought the ranch north of Gillette in 1984. This is good twine. This here is a bad reel. Very bad. Because what do I mean when I say it twists on the axis? Well, let me see if I can make it do it. What happens is you get a little loose loop because you're not keeping your twine taut, and you're reeling away talking to a bunch of people, and pretty soon you've reeled this sucker up like that. Oops, can't make it happen when I want it to. Pretty soon you've reeled your reel, and it's wrapped around there, and you cannot get that son of a bitch undone to save your life. You got to cut it. You don't want to cut it, it wastes time, and it's very annoying. So use a guide. You don't have to if you're poor. Okay, here, I'll give you this one too. But a guide is really important. Any questions so far? Sand hammer. This sand hammer is very old, but it works good. And I've even taped it up because it's starting to split. But you have to have a sand hammer because when you hit the post, it doesn't split the lid of the top of the post. Okay, let's walk over here and look at this. Rubber handles, or they come in plastic. These are good handles because here's why. You're going to hook a lot of handles off and on in your fencing life. And I always have little dabs of twine here or there. So, when you are ready to hook a handle on, try this. Please feel free to pick all this stuff up and play with it. It's okay. You've got an end to your handle. Make a loop. Would you be the end of my twine for me, please? Here I am. I'm ready to hook my handle on. I make a loop. I put my loop through this end. I carefully pull my loop up and loop it over, and I pull it tight. It's really simple. Now, when it's time to undo it, you just do it backwards. You loosen it up, you pull it off. Tie your twine onto the end of your handle and you'll be out there forever. Don't do it. Do not tie twine to anything. Push it through with a loop, pull it over, pull it down. Now you want to leave a little tiny tail on it, because sometimes you go, uh-oh, your fence is too tight, so you need just a little bit more twine, or the fence breaks and you need a little bit more twine, but you don't want it too long. And what will happen to you when you get zapped by that loose tail? You are angry. So you don't want to do it. So what do? You take the time to twist the twine. And you twist it, twist, twist, twist. And this is a little too long because you got to twist, twist, twist for too long. But you twist it up nice and tight, and then you don't get zapped by the hot tail on the end when you unhook your fence in a big hurry. Take the time to twist the twine. Never cut a knot in the twine. Go ahead, you will. I'm married to somebody that for 35 years, she's still knotting these damn things on here. And if you make a loop, push the loop through the loop, then when it's time to take it off, because you always need it someplace else, you just unhook it and pull it off. Look at this lovely, expensive Gallagher hot handle. Really crummy. Because why? Because it weighs too much and it weighs your fence down. Don't buy them. It's also got a wire at the end, and I'll tell you, your twine will get caught in that wire. So don't. Buy a nice little cheapy Dare handle like this. They come in rubber and plastic. Now, I got a prejudice against these red handles because it's real sharp at the end here, and I somehow think that's bad. But this is a perfectly, and it gets loose too. It's just not beautiful like this handle here. All right. Now there's lots of, this is a cold handle, which is an insulator. You can, if you're desperate, you can take an insulator and you can tie the insulator to your barbed wire fence at this end and tie your fence to the other end, and then you'll have a hot fence. Tisk, tisk. Always have enough insulators. That's part of your efficiency. But if you're desperate, okay. So I don't like these I don't like this insulator. Somehow I'm prejudiced against this insulator. These come in rubber and plastic. These are good. Make a loop at the end. Shove it through the loop. Bring it up over to, sorry I don't have rabbit eye, bunny eye for this. Bring it over the top. Pull it tight, leave enough so that if you desperately need twine, you got a little bit, and then take the time to twist the twine. That will put your hot handle on. Over and over and over and over, Jillian's own. All right, now I talked about fence gates. This here is a bungee. Hold on tight, don't pop me. Don't. What? You know what? If you fence with somebody, I can guarantee you that one day they're going to turn on the charger when you're holding on to the fence. And if your relationship survives that, you've got a pretty good relationship. All right. Now, this can go onto a wood post if you've got a permanent. But what I often do, and now we got to get into the posts. This here is a 3/8 of an inch fiber rod post. This is a post that's quite elderly, and what all fiberglass does in the sun is it starts to deteriorate. It's really helpful to have posts that are UV stabilized, because otherwise you're going to get splinters, and it's really a bummer to have to wear your gloves all the time. So try and spend the money to get them. This post will put fiberglass slivers in your hands. This here is a cheap Dare insulator. You can buy 25 for $5. It's handed. You might not think so, but it's got a solid side and it's got an open side. Okay, guys, be efficient. Always put the insulator on the same way. Don't put some of them upside down and some not. Because why? Because when you're going along hooking up the twine, you don't want to have to think, do I hook it up this way or do I hook it up this way? So if you always put your insulators on the same direction. Now you say, but Mickey, if you turn them around, you'll still have a problem. That's true. But you want to be consistent. This is the #1 typical, most common thing ever used in electric fencing, a fiber rod post. Now in Nebraska, they like to use rebar, and they weld on a little triangle of metal onto the rebar and pound them on, and then they drive over them and they bend them. Don't. Just use these. They're cheap. The Dare insulators are, the best thing about them is they're cheap. The worst thing about them is that they fly off easily when the cow hits the fence or the deer. There's a Patriot insulator that's like this. It's plastic, but it's black. And it's good if you've got arthritis because you can twist it. It's got lots of little nibbles on it. You can twist it in good. And it will twist on so hard that it won't pop off very easily, but it costs a whole lot more. So you have to decide for yourself whether you want to use a cheapy Dare insulator or an expensive Patriot insulator. Gallagher makes a plastic insulator. Do not buy them. For some reason, their quality control is bad, and it'll infuriate you because you're going to try and tighten them up and they won't tighten properly. So that's a brand thing that I promised I wouldn't do. But these are really cheap. They're fine. And when it's winter time, you can find them again after they popped off because they're bright yellow. And then the other thing is that you just want to, in your heart, you want to put that insulator down here. So the cow won't jump over it. Come on, guys, the cow, or the cow won't slide under it. If your fence is hot and the cow's touched it ever, she will not go under it. Unless it's 20 below, there's a stackyard full of hay over here and a bunch of hungry cows over here. And what they really do is they pick the weak cow and they push her through it. And that's how they get through the fence. So what you want out in the field, especially if you've got deer and antelope, is to put that, not maybe quite that high, but you want it right up there. And then you want your fence like really hot. Okay, now this is a 7/8 inch fiber rod post with lots of holes in it. This is a coated post. It costs twice as much as this same post, which is actually a little thicker, a little shorter, and half the price. This post, after it's been outside, will give you horrid splinters, and a fiberglass splinter is nothing to laugh about. You can't find them for one once they're in your, wherever you got them. But these posts are really important. When you've got a long-term electric fence out there and you've got to make a corner, you want one of these, sorry, pound it in. You got to pound it in. Don't bother with these spendy posts. You don't need them. Don't pound the post in upside down. You will. I do it all the time. Pound it in right side up, and then what you have are you buy these things, these bobby pins, and once your post is pounded in, you put the wire inside the bobby pin, and you shove the bobby pin, or whatever it is, into the hole. And then you fold them down, ta-da, and you can use them over and over. Now I want to show you, I'm going to save one tough trick for the end, but I want to show you a way to twist wire that is like super helpful. I'm almost done of telling you things, guys. I always have a pair of slip pliers in to do stuff like grab onto things and pull them out. Pretty handy. Now 99 to 1, and I see that I didn't bring them. When you pound the post in it, the little hole won't be in the direction you want it to be, right? And so you try and turn it, it won't turn. You hate it, you start yelling at it. That's when you need, and then you poke your bobby pin in there and you try and use it to turn the post and it bends. That's when you want an old screwdriver that has like a Phillips head that the head's broken off of or something. You just stick it in the hole and then you can turn the post easily. So a screwdriver is a pretty handy thing to have. Now you go, but how do you get these posts out of the ground? You've just pounded them in until they come to here. You turn the post. If it's really tight and you can't turn it by hand, you have vice grip pliers. You put the vice grips on the post and loosen them up till you can click it down. And then you break the contact with the ground. And then you shake the post, push on it with your foot, do all that kind of stuff. And then you pull it out, and if you've got weak arms, like all ladies do, except some, you use your legs. Pull it out. Works every time. So don't buy expensive posts in this case. Wear your gloves. Now, a long time ago, we thought these were the coolest posts ever, man. They're wood, and they're supposed to be insulated wood. Do not ever buy this post. I'll give you some. We got lots of them. What happens is they start leaking power into the ground, and if you test them with your tester, you can see that you're losing a couple kilovolts. Do not buy. Do not. Okay, now pigtail posts. I brought lots of bad examples, and I forgot the good examples. You can get these at Town and Country. There's also cheaper ones that work even better. These step-in pigtails are good because they look like this. I don't know how to say it other than that. This here is expensive Gallagher posts. They're like $5 a piece. See what they do? You're trying to step into some ground that's hard, and here's what happens. I can do it right here on the floor. Do not buy these expensive posts. This is an okay post. It's similar. See, welded on here with a little round dealie? This is an okay post except for this, that splits after a while because it's not UV stabilized. And what happens if you've got a split in your insulation and then your wire touches the metal and then you don't have a fence, you've got a whole bunch of twine. Don't buy those either. Now, everybody hears about these wonderful plastic step-in posts. Do not buy them. I mean, buy what you want. But in the sun, when it's hot, these little Hummers bend over. And they'll bend over down. And they're also annoying because you can't get the twine out of them easy. Don't bother, they're expensive too. But you can get cheap ones and you think, oh, I'll just buy these cheap posts. Don't do it, don't. All right, so try and buy these fiber rods. They're good. Don't get suckered by buying ones that are short because then your fence will be too short. Don't buy these crappy step-in posts. But look, guys, this fence is going to be this high. That's how it's going to be. And if you're trying to keep the fence high so the deer and antelope will go over it, you want that fence to be higher. And you think that doesn't make a difference, but it does. To a deer running at 30 miles an hour, it'll duck under this and it won't duck under that. That being said, what I typically do is I have like 3 or 4 or 5 of these posts and then 1 of these posts. Because when something does hit that, it'll pop all the insulators off, but it won't pop that. And so your fence is only like 100 feet away instead of 1,000 feet away because they've carried it away with them. Okay. Bungee. Now, I was going to show you. You hook the bungee onto your gate post with your bobby pin. See, it's really cool. And then on the other end, you have another bobby pin on your other gate post, and you just hook it on. It's slick, and it snookers everybody into thinking they're really opening a gate, and so they're much more likely to open and close it. All right. I also said I wouldn't talk about good and bad insulators, but the guy that fixes our insulators for us says he has never repaired a Patriot. So you might think about them. They have a downside, and that is to turn them on, you got to press this button right here. And I'm always sure I'm going to get zapped because I don't like where the button is and like that. But it works pretty good. This charger is not good for a long run of fence. This is for a short fence, like like a little horse fence or something. It'll make a hot charge, but you can't make it do a ½ mile of fence. These are the leads. Watch out when you buy chargers because Gallagher's are especially bad. they'll sell you the charger and they won't sell you the leads. And you'll get home and you'll unwrap everything. You go, where are the leads? Those Gallagher cheapy people. So make sure you've got leads. And here's the other thing. If you're like my husband, who's not here so I can complain about him all I want, is that these will break. If you want an unhandy thing to carry around in a four-wheeler, this is it. It'll wrap around the steering wheel, it'll wrap around the seat belt, it'll wrap around your water cooler and break. And the cows will chew on it. Or something will go through it. And then you go, oh, well, I'll just tie the wire together and it'll be fine. Except that the wire will get separated and then your charger will look like it's working. You won't have your tester because you never carry it no matter how many times I tell you. And then you'll have no fence. You'll have miles and miles of stuff out there for things to get tangled up in because what's your number one rule? Hot. This is critical. So you've got to fuss and care for these leads. And then when you hook this wire on, you want to think about taping it with electrical tape. And then it's less likely to come off. And you also want to try and keep them out of the way of curious calves because they will chew them up. And if they're not hot, they will definitely chew them up and they will also chew up the fence. And now I will tell you a few more things about fence wire. Okay, look at that. Take the time to twist the twine a little bit so if you're desperate you can get a couple inches out of that and sometimes that's all you need. All right. It's got a little stretch to it, so it's got a little give, which helps a lot. Sometimes I even put these bungees in the inline in the fence to give it a little stretch, because I like my fence nice and tight, but I like it to have a little give too. All right. Remember the wonderful twine I showed you when we started? Okay, this is what that wonderful twine looks like after it's been out in the field for a while. What happened to this twine? Here's a good twine. This is good twine. Look at it. Good, huh? Pretty good. Unroll it. How about this twine? All right, now what's happened is somebody's gone through your fence, or uh-oh, you forgot to turn the charger on and your fence is down because the fence is not hot, will go down. Oh, I do have one of those knots. Okay, this is a special husband knot. You do not need to tie twine together like that. A granny knot will do. A square knot's even better. Don't get seduced by tying in a complicated knot. However, if you've got a bad spot in your twine and you can't undo it and cut it out for whatever reason, you can make a little jumper. So a little jumper wire is a good short-term thing. But look at this twine. See how it's been chewed? When twine goes down, it's going to get chewed. You're going to put it back up. You're going to think, where's that really long piece? I don't know what I did with it. Yeah. What's going to happen is you're going to go along and put your fence back up and you're going to think, oh, my fence is fine. But in the middle of really good fence is going to be a chewed piece and you won't know it unless you go along and you feel the whole damn fence. So when your fence goes down and the calves chew it, I'm sorry. You're going to have to go along and cut all those out and use your nice rabbit ear, bunny ear, rabbit eye to connect the good ends. When a fence goes down, and this is on the thing about check the fence when your fence charge changes. When your fence goes down, somebody's going to chew on it. And then when you get the fence back up, you have to test the fence close to the charger and at the other end. Because what will happen is it'll be hot at the charger because this is all really great fence. And then it'll hit a little intersection of chewed up twine, which you won't know about because you didn't walk the whole thing and check for bad twine. And it'll all be good at the end. So you'll think it's just fine. So you put the fence up and you'll have 400 cows there. Tell me if I'm wrong. 400 cows standing on that fence, everything's groovy, and the next morning you go out and they're all out. Why? Because it was only hot up to the chewed up place. and then it wasn't hot. So if you ever have a broken fence, when you put it back up, check both ends. And if the one far away from the charger isn't hot, you've got bad twine. And until you learn that, you won't know what's wrong with your fence. You'll hate electric fence because it doesn't work. It works. All right, here's a beautiful thing. We love this tape, but we don't love this tape. This is very seductive stuff because it looks so like the horses must be able to see it. Don't worry, horses can hear it. They don't need to see it. This twine, this tape, has metal strands in it and they break. And it looks like the tape is good and the tape will be dead. Don't bother with this unless you really like how pretty it is. And you like how pretty this looks. And you put it through this nice thing, and it looks so pretty, and it's dead at one end, and the post bends over. So I don't bother with it. Okay, let's see. I like to carry my major tools in a box that you can shut up tight. Because why? Because especially like right now, how dirty it is outside, and you get dirt and things that have to move. And it just keeps things a little bit neater. So I like a toolbox like this. And then I really like to carry around a box cutter because when you have a set of new leads or you have something like this, you can just slit it and you don't have to stand there and unwrap because you're trying to be efficient, right? And then I like to have hammers because you never know when you're going to need a hammer. And then I always have extra handles. And I hate these handles. These are good handles. I take the time to twist the twine. So I have my 10 words. Hot, up, high, shut, test, check, quality, consistency, organization, maintenance. The 10 words. And you don't forget 9 of them. Just remember hot. And you can't tell if it's hot unless you use a tester because a fence that's 2.8 is not a good fence. It's nothing, it's twine. You need a fence that's over 4. If it's not over 4, there's something wrong with your twine. There's something wrong with your leads. Maybe there's something wrong with your ground. You have to be able to check it. And with the Smart Fix, these very expensive things, you can check kilovolts, which is the power on your fence, or you can click it over to A, which means amps, and it will show you where your grounds or where your faults are. And it's a help. But there's no substitute for feeling along on your fence, for looking for bad spots. But you can put up miles of fence. I mean, like I'm 66, I'm only in reasonable shape for 66, and I can put up a mile of fence in a day. You can't do that. You can't do that with other fence. If we've got cattle that are roping cattle that, not ours, maybe Ellie's, but they want to go through a barbed wire fence, you can put an offset, you can put an offset, an electric fence up along the other fence, and it'll keep those animals out. Now I told you it's communication, right? And you can't keep them out of where they really, really want to go, but they'll keep roping cattle out. They'll keep a bull away from a calf. They'll tell the animals, finish eating here, and then we're going to put you here where this new grass is. And they'll run through. They learn it. The one thing I haven't told you is, though, what do cows need more than they need grass? They need water. So when you are doing your planning and you're making your simple KISS plan, remember that they need water. Now the neat thing about electric fence is you can fence right over your water. So they can get water from this side and water from this side. Or you can make a little wow in your fence and they can get all around the water and all you do is flip the wow around to the other side. Or you can make a complicated thing and you can make like a bunch of pies and then they can come down to the same water. I mean, you make it as complicated as you want. But if cows do not have water, they'll suffer, but they'll also get out. So water's the #1 thing, then grass. Actually air, because we're all really aware of the air right now. It's so awful. So I think, what do cows need? Well, they do need air, and they don't have much of it lately. But then they need water more than they need grass, and then they need grass. And what the electric fence does is it encourages them to eat the grass evenly on one side and then go through and eat the grass evenly on the other side, because they're only in there for not very long. And with electric fence, what you want is you want them, well, think about logically. What grass do you really want? You want the grass that the cows want to eat. And what's the first thing they do when they go in a pasture? They eat the grass that they want to eat, which is the grass you don't want them to eat, because then they'll eat it all up. So what you're constantly doing, this dynamic tension of put them in a pasture, have them eat, get them out of there before they eat up down to the nibbins, the very grass you're trying to save, and then give that grass as much time as possible to recover. Now, what does that mean? It means it's got to rain on the grass. It's got to rain. Going back to a pasture that hasn't had not just time, but rain to recover is not a good thing for the grass. And what will be left? It'll be the grass that the cows didn't want to eat anyway, which is not the grass you want.